Hello, it's Phil here for Digital DJ Tips, and I'm sat with Pete Tong at the IMS College in Malta. Now, Pete obviously needs no introduction, but IMS might do. The International Music Summit is a big high-end kind of music industry with the emphasis on industry. It's not kind of creative, it's more kind of how to get on in this industry summit in Ibiza, and it's kind of always attracted the people who are networking, who are already there, who've already got maybe a career. But this is something new, isn't it? This is attracting people who, the next generation, your IMS Ibiza people for maybe 10 years down the line.
About 10 years, but...
Is it less than 10 years? Is it more than 10 years? How long does it take to get to be a superstar at the Ibiza IMS?
No, I think the original thing with the IMS was more, the reason we use the word summit is myself and the partners were always inspired by things like TED Talks, and we wanted to, there were other DJ conventions, largely when you think about ADE in Amsterdam, and also the history of the Miami Winter Music Conference. So we wanted Ibiza to be something a bit different, so it was always about gathering the kind of elite, as you say, of the music business to kind of discuss the issues of the day, to try and really move the needle and create change. So it was about bringing the top artists together with the top executives. That's the way it started. It kind of grew out from that over the course of 9 years, and we still welcome now people that are just starting out at the IMS. So the IMS in Ibiza has grown enormously from when it started 9 years ago. This is, we have these different strands. We opened up in Asia with a specific mission because nobody was doing anything like what we were doing out in that part of the world, and equally we had a presence in America because of what had been going on with the explosion of EDM, and I think that we've been offered a few opportunities to kind of link up with schools and colleges before. But Malta's the first time all the kind of ducks lined up when we actually got the chance to do it, which is hence we're here. And again, it's just a case of making it different to all the other events we do, and this one was very much focused on education, teaming up with music production schools and the kind of music educational side of what was going on in Malta. So hopefully it's something we can repeat. But yeah, as you say, it's very much about encouraging people as much to kind of find that, how to find their feet quickly in this business, how to get started, and inspire people to kind of make music and understand better about the art of DJing.
I mean, it's really appealing to our audience of Digital DJ Tips, because we kind of came about with this kind of the explosion in technology, where suddenly you could DJ with a little box that you could put away in a drawer at home when you weren't using it, and it became, you and I remember you were talking earlier about a couple of turntables and homemade equipment back in the days when you really had to put 5 years of hard stint in to even understand what all this stuff did and so on. And now there's a different problem, that people in 5 minutes can do what took us 5 years to kind of master. And so we kind of moved into the space of trying to teach people the old ways and trying to teach people the important things, because it's not immediately obvious when you get a cool piece of software in a little box. So there's this whole new generation coming through, and what we found is our students are in 50 countries, and not everyone is in a position where they've got access to the best equipment or the best clubs or buying records. So now DJing's kind of become far more global, far more democratized, and so anyone with a passion for music anywhere can get there, even if it's on their smartphone. And we all know you can get a smartphone for $10 nowadays. Suddenly it's open to everyone, and that's what's really inspired us. And that's why we're here. It's why we're here in Malta at IMS rather than coming to Ibiza, because it's what our audience, it's where our audience is at. So I wanted to ask you, personally, as someone who doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, why are you here at not low level, because that's the wrong word, but a beginner, aspirational, getting started event? What's in it for you? What fires you up to be doing this?
Well, I think I've always wanted to be in touch with the next generation. I mean, that kind of ticks boxes in everything I do, from what I do as a DJ, what I do on the radio, what I do as an A&R guy, and what I do in the agency business. So I mean, to me it's a natural thing to do. I'm a partner in the IMS as well, so it was important. We got a lot of stuff going on all over the world now. All the partners are quite busy, so I wanted to, it worked for me. I wanted to be part of this from the get-go and show up and do my bit from day one. So that's why I'm here. But it's funny, you're right, it's never been easier to start DJing, but in a way the skill set that's required I don't think it's changed that much from 30, 40 years. It's still about, it doesn't matter how much access you've got, ultimately it's still about taste. I think that probably the thing that changed is the kind of barrier to entry back in the day probably put a lot of people off, and you really had to be super passionate about music and seek out to go and buy those records and then actually learn to put them together in the right order and not make a mess of it. And roll forward 30 odd years, the software, and all the platforms make it so easy to do it, but actually and it's easier to get the music than ever as well. You can steal it, buy it, borrow it, whatever. But I don't think but actually just giving people infinite choice doesn't actually make everybody a DJ, so there's still a lot to learn.
So you mentioned taste. I think taste is probably quite important.
It's one thing you can't teach.
No. So you say it's one thing you can't teach, but it's one thing that you can nurture and you can encourage.
Yeah.
Nowadays we were talking earlier, the Beatport Top 100, there's streaming services. The kind of music goes global instantly, and I guess there's this pressure to everything turns vanilla. Looking back over your career, watching scenes come and scenes go, and watching people rise and fall, what should people be not scared about really when it comes to their taste and when it comes to following their dreams, rising out of scenes, creating their own scenes, doing it for themselves? What encouragement could you offer to the new DJ who knows that the equipment in front of him or her can do it?
I think you've got to have your own sound. I mean, I think that's, there's no excuse now. You've got to craft your own sound. I think the most common thing I come across is you get from more on the commercial side, say looking back over the last 5 years, EDM song comes along by some girl, and it sounds pretty competitive, it's doing pretty well, but their DJing that goes with it is very generic. They're all playing the same records roughly, and not very individual. So really hard to stand out as a DJ. You're just really relying on that tune you're playing to make you stand out. And it's no coincidence when you look at the success of people like Dylan Francis or Skrillex or Diplo, that actually it's quite clear that they didn't sound like anybody. They probably found it a little bit harder at the start to get recognised because they went so far against the grain. But actually that's the very reason they're successful today, is that they didn't sound like anybody else, and they found records, even if they didn't make them, and put them together in a set that actually really made a mark. So I think actually, daring to be different is really, really important. It's much more common on the underground side of life for people to, people that emerge from the underground. If you look at people like Black Coffee, Black Madonna now, they've all got the same records as we all have, but they've actually managed to kind of curate a list and create a sound. People kind of know what Black Coffee sounds like already, which is why, he's not 17 years old either, and he's made 5 albums in South Africa, and he's a superstar down there. But it's no, when you actually rub away the mist and actually start listening to what he's doing, it's no mystery as to why he's successful, because he really has developed a sound. So I think developing your own sound, it comes from making music, but it's just as important if you want to get recognised as a DJ that you've got a different sound to everybody else. So
it's good that you mentioned.
And when you think back, that's what Seth Troxler had, that's what Marco Carolla has, that's what Solomon has, that's what Jamie Jones has. So there's a pattern, and it's
taste, back to taste.
It comes back to taste and having an identity, and sometimes there's a little bit of luck in it coming along at the right time, the right place. But
it's good that you talk about an artist who isn't from the UK or the States, in Black Coffee. As I say, our audience, what struck us in the 6 years we've been teaching people DJing is the audience is in 50 countries. And I'm guessing that's something new. I'm guessing that hasn't, that wouldn't have been the case if we could roll back 20 years and do what we're doing now. Not that we could, because the internet wasn't there. Do you, as someone who's always sought new sounds and signed music and found DJs, are you seeing a more international flavour nowadays compared to?
Well, it's definitely more attractive from
Are there pockets? Wow, I didn't know that was happening.
Well, no, I mean, I would love to find. The UK is overcrowded. The US is overcrowded. Sweden, Holland is overcrowded. But becoming the biggest DJ in Malta, or the biggest DJ in Switzerland, or the biggest DJ in Brazil. I mean, Alok, someone that we just took on at WME. I mean, he's a superstar down there. Big ticket seller. People relatively unknown to the rest of the world, just really starting out making music as well. But I'm always looking.
This is what I'm asking, because obviously there's people watching this in our audience who are in places where they think they're in the back end of nowhere. They think that they've got a built-in disadvantage.
I actually think that's easier to get. I mean, if you're the biggest DJ in Iceland, people are going to get to know about you really quickly.
Or the biggest football team.
Yeah. So I think that's actually, the way the world is and the way the world's connected now, that would actually be an advantage.
So the encouragement is, if you are sat somewhere thinking that no one understands you, no one knows what you're doing.
I mean, I went to Vietnam recently, and it was incredible, the kind of hunger in Ho Chi Minh, aka Saigon. I mean, I played in a club that was like 500 people, but the love, the enthusiasm, the knowledge was second to none, and I played a very underground set there. So if there had been a resident DJ in that club, or someone fosters their reputation in an environment like that, the vibe you could create by just having 500 followers in a country as big as Vietnam the word would get out pretty quickly that you were the guy. And that's kind of how Black Coffee got discovered, by people going down there and playing with him. And then eventually the story filtering back and him getting hired at DC-10. So, I think it's not an issue. It's actually a massive advantage if you can make an impact.
So there's your takeaway, guys. Wherever you are watching this, develop your taste. Don't be scared to be different, and treat it as an advantage.
Yeah, and invite people to come and play with you, or get to play with the international people on the circuit. And then, I mean, it's a bit like me. That's exactly what I did in Kent, which is a county of England, back in the day when the world seemed a lot smaller, or a lot more difficult to get around. It was just literally me hiring the hot DJs that were playing in other counties, or in London in particular, and bringing them out to me, which was just 25 miles away. And then you suddenly, if you impress those guys are asking you back on their parties and their bills. And that's exactly what we're talking about. That's the dynamic. So
I guess that's actually probably easy to do, as you say, if your country isn't already saturated and established.
Yeah. I'm surprised in a way that we haven't got. I mean, we've got a few, but there haven't been more prominent DJs from Eastern Europe or Russia.
Well, there you go, everyone. Yeah. He's looking for you if you're watching this in Eastern Europe or Russia. So Pete, people are going to be watching this thinking, I wish I was at this IMS conference in Malta. It looks awesome. They're not. Where can they find IMS College? What's the plans for IMS College? So if our audience want to come along.
Well, ironically, the two countries that really stood out for this opportunity were the UK and here, and look at us. We're doing it in Malta before the UK, which you would have thought would have been a natural. So eventually, it would feel like a natural fit to go back into the UK actually and do this there. But for now, it's Malta. So hopefully, if year one goes well, we'll be back and we'll see where it goes.
So people should keep an eye on the IMS site and look out for IMS College.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think Malta's a great. It's funny because even walking around, feels a bit like Ibiza did 20, 30
It's an island in the middle of the Mediterranean, by the way. If anyone's watching this,
and it's big, and for the last 5 years, there's been a definite effort to put it on the map by local promoters and stuff like that. So when you think like Annie Mac's event now in April, I think this was this third year. Is 9,000-10,000 people this year, going from strength to strength. Just looking at the posters on the wall. Walking around outside the hotel today, it's as much as I see Steve Aoki and stuff up there, I mean, it's loads and loads of kind of underground stuff going on that's like heavily influenced by the Italians that are here and the Germans and the Berlin scene. So it's encouraging.
Good. Well, Pete, thanks a lot for taking the time out to chat to us. Pete Tong, and this has been Phil here for Digital DJ Tips at IMS College in Malta.